It's the night of the living dead as the 2024 Chicago Bears will march on to purgatory after they find another way to lose a ball game, dropping one to the Minnesota Vikings in overtime. In basketball, the Bulls had a split weekend, but some key players had some outstanding performances. We'll give you all the details. In college football, the college football playoff field is shaping up. Some teams are hanging on while the other teams were eliminated. And we'll have a special old school Monday TV tribute to Mr. Chuck Woolery. That and a whole lot more as the Monday edition of Second City Sports starts right now. Welcome to another fun-filled Monday edition of Second City Sports. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago, along with Miss Lakina McGee, which is she. I am Cindy Brown. You know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, X, and IG.
Be sure to download the Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Please follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at Warm Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We're on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're at it, please give Warm Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. And thank you very much in advance for your support.
Like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends.
We're unapologetically fun, and we have very definite opinions. If you have any definite opinion, do know our 2-hour extravaganza we call the Sports Talk Radio Show. You can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you. But you decide to troll and or do something silly, dumb, or stupid, I give Lakina full powers to give you fools the bill and be a boot.
Woodles, gobble,
gobble. But before we begin, we must remind you whether you're watching us live or you're watching us on the replay, we will provide you with the best sports content around. And feel free to comment on our program, whether it's good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. We will definitely appreciate it.
Yeah, just keep it clean, folks. Keep it G-rated or PG-rated at least. So we'll get back to the Second City Sports here as we, of course, we're going to have a special treat to Chuck Woolery for a special edition of Old School TV Monday. I got a little college football. We got a little sprinkle of college hoops, little sports media news, and, of course, Bulls and NBA over the weekend, and some NHL changes. One coach, gets another job after getting the boot somewhere else. So we'll get to all that. But first, of course, is our football power hour as, of course, we'll start with Bears and Vikings. The Bears, give them credit for coming back from 10 down in the fourth quarter, to tie the game. Caleb Williams, looked really good. He has 102, well over 102 passer QB rating. He had 340 yards and 2 touchdowns. But unfortunately, in overtime, he took a big sack that, and the defense gave up a lot of big plays. So it was kind of a mixed bag again for the Bears. So, for me, Sid, I kept the game in the background. I was watching other games because thank you to YouTube TV for providing a free preview of Sunday Ticket. Thank you very much. So I was watching the other games. Totally. But, Sid, what do you think about this game yesterday? Because, the Bears fall to 4-7. They have to face the the Lions, I should say, for Thanksgiving. We'll talk about that, we'll talk about that later this week. But Sid, what did you think?
I'm gonna be Mr. Negative for a second. 1, where is our running game? Number 2, the special teams failed us again with another blocked field goal from the same damn spot from the same damn side of the offensive line. There's no excuse for that. Number 3, DeAndre Carter. Yes, he made that big punt, that big kickoff return toward the end of regulation, but on the punt return, midway through that third quarter, you did a big boo-boo, which cost you some more points. Number 4, head coach Matt Eberflus in overtime after that aforementioned play that you mentioned about Caleb Williams taking that sack. Where was the aggressiveness on that defense, Lakina? Was it a cover 2 or a prevent defense? Wherever the hell that was, you should have known that Minnesota only needed a field goal to win the game. Guess what happened? Minnesota converted on a couple of third down and long conversions, and they kicked the game-winning field goal to beat you on your own home field. What does it say, Lakina? 1, your coach is incompetent. 2, the players are not held accountable. Which 3, they are unfocused, and which leads to 4, as we said a couple of weeks ago, and I'll say it again now, they are checked out. There's no hope of them returning to 500 this season. The coaching staff will hopefully, and I think they will get the X at the end of the year. It doesn't matter what happens on Thursday. We'll get to that another time. But Lakina, the same old dance, the same old song, which produced the same old damn results. It is not funny anymore. It is sickening. And you said this before we came on today. I'm just waiting for the season to end, to be honest with you, overall.
You listen to Second City Sports on Sports on Chicago, like Keita McGee around with you, and yeah, I'm kind of at that. I'm like we right before we started recording, I said exactly that to you. Like I'm waiting for the season to be over with now because of, like I said, they're 4-7. They're probably out of it. I don't see another. They might get one win, but that's not even a guarantee at this point. And of course, you're facing a Lions team that's didn't really have to do too much in their game against the Colts. So like I said, we'll talk about that after the break, but it's just like, like you said, it seems like everyone's checked out. I mean, Keenan Allen, you give him a little bit of credit, of course. You had a couple of big catches. You made some key blocks and such. I guess he's playing for a contract, whether it's with the Bears or someone else. It's just like, but then, DJ Moore, I know he finally got a touchdown for the first time in a month, touchdown catch. Like the defense, Montez Sweat, sacked, Darnold a few times, once, but it just seems like that, like everyone else is sort of like just checked out at this point. And is it coaching? Yeah, but it's something like is your personnel. Look, Thomas Brown, you have all the credit in the world. Caleb looks good, but again, he'll probably be gone too with Eberflus. So for me, it's just like it all kind of just doesn't. None of this doesn't really matter anymore. At this point, it really doesn't.
I will try to play fair and balanced, unlike Fox or Box News, no pun intended. There were some silver linings in that loss yesterday. You mentioned Caleb Williams, 32 of 47, 340 yards and 2 touchdown passes. The reason why he got those numbers off, because outside of that blocked field goal early in the game, the offensive line actually played well. Even though I know they gave up 3 sacks, but for the most part, they played well, which led to my frustration a few moments ago about where was our running game, because the offensive line was playing well. They were protecting Caleb pretty much good at a B+ average, but the offensive line played well. Number 2, DeAndre Carter. Yes, he had that big return, which I was proud of him of, but that muff punt you just cannot do. Little things like that add up, and it costs the Bears again. Now, let me go back to the positive side. On the onside kick, after Keenan Allen scored that touchdown, it was said on the broadcast that the Bears touched the ball before the Vikings did, before it went 10 yards. It turned out it was not true. So the Bears were heads up on that special teams play, and I will give them credit for that. And that was one of the few things they did right yesterday, so I'll give them credit for that. Number 3, as we said for the last couple of weeks, Cole Kmet, where is he? Ever since new offensive coordinator Thomas Brown, what can Brown do for you took over? He's found that Cole Kmet needs to be included in the game plan. Well, Cole Kmet did himself proud yesterday. 7 catches for 64 yards. Now we got to put him in a position to get into the end zone. That's the next best thing, like he was doing in the first couple of weeks of the season. So there were some silver linings that I found in yesterday's game. But the overall, Lakina, I just didn't like it because, as we said all season, and it came up again yesterday, the little things that you cannot overcome, that you do not correct in practice all week, it shows up in games. You cannot overcome it. It results in losses, and it happened again yesterday.
It really did. Like we said, like you give them credit for coming back. They could have just, like phoned it in. They didn't, give them credit for that. But I think that was also because the Vikings decided to go for 4th and 1 and went empty backfield, which was kind of silly when you had Aaron Jones, who he know how much Aaron loves about playing the Bears. We talked about that with our buddy Alec Osmus for ABC5. He had 106 yards and a TD. So I don't know why you just let him get that 1 yard. That would have ended the game right there. But again, I digress. But it's sort of just one of those days where they were kind of led back into it by the Vikings. Of course, we saw that they gave up the big plays and they were able to take advantage that the Bears did. But once they needed, once they counted, they weren't able to do that. So for me, this seems like a very hollow loss, I guess. I know everyone wants to say, we want to annoy Caleb. Oh, we got a quarterback now. I mean, let's slow down, folks. I know Kevin O'Connell, said some really nice things about, to Caleb after the game. Of course, Caleb shared some of that. But again, he's probably very likely going to have a new OC and a new head coach probably. So I think for me, let's kind of slow down on that, because now you're going to have the more stuff you run with this Thomas Brown offense, more, you're going to get, more guys are going to be looking at it. All these coaches are going to be looking at it now. You're going to have more tape out there. So I think people need to kind of just slow it down on all that and just kind of let the rest of the season play out. Like whatever happens, happens.
One more thing before to go to break, Lakina, and I'll say my other thought from an ESPN personality. I'll save that one for after the break. But going back to being missing negative for the coaching, Lakina, remember when the Bears scored the touchdown? I believe it was the Keenan Allen touchdown, which cut the lead to 24-16.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you going for two? Whether they scored or not, which they didn't. Why are you going for two early in the fourth quarter? Why? Just take the easy kick. It's a 7-point deficit. You play on from there. It's not just them. It's some of these other dumbass coaches around the league. You're smarter than you think that you're smarter in the room. It comes back to bite you in the ass. And thank goodness that the Bears did come back to force that game in the overtime, because of that. They didn't. That 2-point conversion attempt early in that fourth quarter when it was 24-16. That was unnecessary. That mistake would have cost them originally.
We'll talk more about that and some the rest of the stuff around the league as well. We got a couple upsets, and is Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat in San Francisco? He better not be. And of course, we may have a new front runner for FL MVP. That sends us a whole lot more. The Kingdom Case today about Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. We'll be right back in 2 and 2 right after this.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class. These colored pencils, too.
These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver.
I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you, your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov, a public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on the Monday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You follow my Kitty McGee on the Twitter, X, and Kids again, IG.
We have 85 minutes left for this extravaganza we call a Sports Talk Radio Show. If you have any questions or comments for us as we wrap up our Bears discussion and also jumping around recapping the rest of the action from the NFL from yesterday, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comment section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
All right, Sid, finish up your thoughts. Vikings, Bears, and I saw Clay Arbor tweet something about should the Bears just let Thomas Brown take over the rest of the season as head coach.
What did that tweet? Yeah. Okay.
No, you can finish that. No, you can finish. I was just being funny, but yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, since you brought that up, I saw this clip on social media just about an hour ago. I don't know if you saw it or heard it. I meant to send it to you, but Chris Canty, former NFL player, 2011 Super Bowl champion with the New York Football Giants. He's made a great transition into the media world, both locally and nationally on ESPN Radio. And he said this on their show on Sportsmanlike is with Evan Cohen and Michelle Smallman. They all do a great job. That's ESPN Radio's national morning show. And I'm just paraphrasing from what he said. They were talking about the Bears, and he was taking up for Matt Eberflus, and he said when the Bears won their 5 out of their last 8 games last year, it showed people that they didn't quit, and it was continuity was key, and that the Bears were improving, they were coming. And he basically said the same thing about yesterday's game. He said if they get to at least 7 wins or maybe 8, that he can make the case for Eberflus should be brought back. Lakina, as we talked about for the last few weeks, ever since that Washington game, the train has fallen off this track. It's not going to get back on. The players are lost with that coaching staff. You got rid of the OC, but we know that's it's working on the offensive end. But in terms of translating to wins, it's not happening. The locker room is dead. The players are lost. Eberflus is hanging on for dear life. And like Chris Canty said, if you could get 2 or 3 wins, okay, you're back to where you were last year. Remember last year at this time, even though I wasn't a big fan of Eberflus coming back, we knew that he would. Remember, I told you a couple of things. Remember, I told you during the offseason, before the season, 8 wins or less, he's gone. If they can squeak out 2 wins, they equal 6. Last time I checked, 6 wins is 1 less win than you had a year ago, which everybody in the organization was telling you that this thing was trending on the way up. You needed a quarterback, and that was it. Look what's happening now. You cannot logically make a case right now for Eberflus coming back, even if they win the rest of the schedule, which is not going to happen. You still cannot make a case for Eberflus coming back. He's a placeholder. He's not a long-term solution. Some head coaches are great coordinators, and he's one of them. He's a very good coordinator, but not a great head coach.
And we'll probably get to one of the cases of another coach. You can probably say that should be back to be the coordinator. But well, let's move right along here because I want to kind of get these games here and such. We'll just get this one out the way. Speaking of, Brian Dable, of course, rumors are that he, and the GM there, but the Giants are going to be fired. And 37 loss to the Bucs. Of course, the Bucs go fresh off a bye, and it's definitely one of those the things where I know the New York. It could be the Giants, it could be worse, I guess, or it could be just as bad, if I guess however you want to look at it. Baker Mayfield had himself a game yesterday. If they would go here we go 294 passing yards. He had a rushing TD. Bucky Irvin had 87 rushing yards and a TD as well. Tommy DeVito in a losing effort, was sacked 4 times, 189 passing yards, and he got banged up after the game during the fourth quarter. So yeah, we don't have to spend too much time on this game, Sid. But yeah, the Bucks, look, they're at 5-6, and they're seeing a little bit of an opening there with the Falcons struggling in the NFC South.
Yeah, the Buccaneers did what they had to do yesterday. We all thought it was going to be a much closer game during our pick segment last Friday with our girl Christine, the Queen Manica. We talk about Bears fans here in Chicago deserving much better. The New York Football Giant fans deserve much better than this. So going back to last year, you get shut out at home on your home opener on Sunday Night Football against the Dallas Cowboys. This year in their home opener, they get trashed by the Minnesota Vikings. Now they're having a great season. Then yesterday, you get rid of Daniel Jones. Well, it's going to be new life. Tommy DeVito, a fan favorite, is back. He's going to at least show some promise, show some life. It didn't happen. Like you said, the Buccaneers took care of business. The Giants, there's a bunch of reasons why they're 2-9. We don't have time to go through them, but they deserve what they got. I'm talking about the team, not the fans yesterday.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see in this field. Like I said, the Bucs field could be right there at the thick of an NFC South with Atlanta struggling. So we'll see what happens there. Now the Chiefs had a little bit of trouble down in the Carolinas. They needed a last-second field goal to beat the Panthers 30-27. And I know Chiefs fans were very quiet yesterday because I know they thought that this was going to be a blowout. To the credit for the Panthers, look, Bryce Hill's been playing very well since he was benched, and in the losing effort, he threw for 263 yards and a TD. And of course, Pat Mahomes 3 TDs and 2 of the 69 yards, 69 yards, I should say, as well. Kareem Hunt had a 68 rushing yards. So yeah, again, I don't know if the defense kind of was sort of dragging along, but yeah. I know, they're 10-1. This is their 10th straight season with at least 10 wins. I'll talk about the Chiefs, but even still, they did not look good yesterday.
And we were worried about this last Friday during our pick segment. That could the Chiefs play down to their competition? I think they kind of did yesterday. Give Carolina credit, as you said, but before I forget, get well soon to Miles Sanders of the Carolina Panthers. He landed on his head yesterday, literally, and he had to be carted off the field. So get well soon. But back to the game. The Chiefs started off hot in that first half, leading 20-9 after recess. But the Panthers showed some life in that second half. And you mentioned the Chiefs. In my opinion, they were going through the motions. They got away with it yesterday. But when it comes for the bell to ring, I know you cannot bet against Patrick Mahomes, but you can't keep living on the edge and expect to survive because at one point or another, it's going to come back to bite you. But they were lucky they were playing the Panthers yesterday. The Panthers, obviously, they're not going anywhere. They're playing with nothing to lose. So you saw the way that they played. They played with desperation. But for the Chiefs, they got to be careful here playing this way.
They really do, and this could come back to bite them in the butt to do this in the playoffs too. So I know Chiefs fans are just like, hey, look, we gotta win, but at the same time, you didn't look good doing it. So if you have to play in that opener, you may end up getting caught with your pants down. So watch out, folks. I know they got guys coming back. I know it's like Hollywood Brown is on track to coming back. Pacheco, he should be back soon. Maybe be back this Sunday. So we'll see what happens. Probably one of the strangest games in the NFC East. The Cowboys beat the Commanders. You saw, let's see. You saw a kickoff return for a touchdown. Then you saw a punt return for a touchdown. You get interceptions, a pick six, and just a lot of weirdness at this game. Cooper Rush 247 yards and 2 TDs. Jaden Daniels 275 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also had 2 interceptions. They're 7-5. I'm talking about the Commanders. They've lost 2 of their last 3, and the Cowboys, they're 4-7. I'm not saying they're gonna go on this run and perhaps maybe win the division, but it's sort of one of those days where it was probably the game was it had a little bit of everything. It was drunk, as the kids would say.
Yes, it was drunk in that fourth quarter. I did have that game won for the first few minutes. It was boring. It was dragging along. I said, I'll switch it to another game. Then that fourth quarter came, and like I said, it got drunk with some excitement for about a half hour there. But a couple of things to point out here. One, Jaden Daniels, if you paid attention to him on that last play, the Dallas defense, unlike the Bears defense a month ago against the Commanders, they provided a decent matador rush on Jaden Daniels. If Jaden Daniels had a couple more seconds to actually get his feet set and his arms to throw, that Hail Mary would not have been an interception. The ball at least landed in the end zone. That's number one. Number two, the Commanders special teams have been great all year. it failed, and not just on the kickoff returns, but that missed field goal by their kicker, Siebert. That was not
Mm-hmm.
good either. So the Commanders got a few things to tighten up on the specialties, but I think they'll be okay. But they got to turn it around mentally, because if they don't, they'll see it go down the drain just like that.
Yes, yes, it would. That extra point that would have tied the game, and
Hmm.
just a lot of weirdness that happened after that. But yeah, very irritating one. It was just very odd nonetheless. Now, down the South Beach, shout out to our baseball dudes who had to call this game for CBS. The Dolphins, no trouble with the Patriots. I have to take the L on that one because I picked the Patriots like a dummy. But I digress. Well, the good news is that Tua got me 30 points on my fantasy league. So hey, I got a win there. So thank you, Tua. He's been playing very well. At least he's coming back 317 yards and 4 TDs. Basically it was all Miami. Devin McCain had 32 rushing yards. It was more on the receiving side. He actually well, and Jalen Wall had 144 yards in the TD catch. So yeah, it was Drake made a touchdown pass, interception, was sacked 4 times, but it was really basically all Miami.
Yeah, and the Dolphins were dominant from the first quarter through the fourth quarter. The Dolphins made their hayway, scoring 24 unanswered points in that second quarter. You mentioned Tua Tagovailoa looked great with 4 touchdown passes over 300 yards. And the Dolphins, as we said last week, they're quietly trying to make their last push to get into the playoffs. If Tua wasn't hurt earlier this season, they would have one of those 3 wildcard spots right now. So still a long way to go for Miami, and we'll see what happens as they try to finish up the rest of their tough schedule.
Let's see if they can maybe put a little bit of a run here. Probably one of the bigger upsets in the AFC South. You got the Texans losing to the Titans 32-27. Will Levis that turns 8 yards and 2 TDs, even though he was sacked 8 times. 247 yards for CJ Stroud, 2 TDs, but also 2 interceptions. So that kind of killed the momentum there for the Texans. Joe Mixon only 20 rushing yards. Tony Pollard, if you guys had him on your fantasy team, you had a nice Sunday. Yesterday, 119 yards and a TD. So, look, despite the Texans' best efforts on defense, but it just gave up too many big plays. I think you hope that this is not the kind of loss to come back to biting the butt in the seeding part, at least.
Yeah, CJ Stroud pulled a Dan Orlovsky. I think it was in the same stadium by stepping out of the end zone and taking a safety. Not smart. But you answered my question, which I was going to ask. I'll ask it anyway. Where is the running game in Houston? We talked about Joe. I said that Joe Mixon was a nice addition for them in the offseason. He gets their offense going. I know Nico Collins had a touchdown for the Texans yesterday, but the Texans' running game was non-existent. And you mentioned Will Levis. He had his best game of the year by far, 278 yards passing with 2 touchdowns. And Nick Westbrook-Heineken, if I'm saying his name correctly, he also had a touchdown in that game yesterday too. So I believe that's 2 straight games for him having a receiving touchdown. So Tennessee's trying to come on right now, playing spoilers. So for the Texans, they got some searching to do, and they need to get back on track.
Yes, they do. Staying in the AFC South, this time we're going to Indy. The Lions, this will be, of course, the Bears' next opponent. Didn't really expand too much energy. It was close for maybe 5 seconds. The Colts were leading at the first quarter, but it was all the Lions after that. 269 yards for Mr. Jared Goff, 90 yards for Jameer Gibbs, 2 TDs for him, and of course, a rush TD for Mr. David Montgomery. Anthony Richardson, 172 yards. He was also leading rusher for the Colts. I know Sid hates that, but yeah. So they really didn't have to do too much. The Lions, they didn't have to really expand too much energy. And if you're Dan Campbell, that's the kind of game you want.
Yeah, because you mentioned they played the mighty Chicago Bears on Thursday, so they had to save that energy because they're going to unleash it on Chicago in front of a worldwide audience on Thursday. But you mentioned the Lions. The running game was the story for them. Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. I wouldn't be surprised if David Montgomery give another Bears a good dose of reality on Thursday, but we'll get to that on our next show on Wednesday. A special edition of Second City Sports coming up on Wednesday, so mark your calendars. For the Lions, the running game was the story for them. On the flip side for the Colts, they just couldn't get much going offensively. Even though Anthony Richardson gives the Colts a chance to win. There was nothing much happening outside of him. Michael Pittman Jr. for the Colts, their star wide receiver, 6 catches for 96 yards. But after that, nothing else was happening in Indianapolis as they were shut out in the second half off the scoreboard.
Yeah, just you saw the DC for the Lions just chilling on the sideline, so he really,
Aaron Glenn,
much,
yep.
So. Yeah, Aaron Glenn, yeah. So yeah, he was just chilling on the sidelines. They had a little beam of that afterwards. That was actually pretty funny. But again, did not do too much, but they got the win. So you'll take that if you're him, Dan Campbell, and the rest of the Lions as they play on Thanksgiving later this week. The first of the 3:00 game. Let's go to the AFC West. And looks like everyone's on the Broncos train, choo choo, as they beat the Raiders. It was actually a pretty entertaining game, probably even more entertaining than a lot of people thought because this game was on here in Chicago on CBS. 29-19 for the Broncos over the Raiders. 7-5 the Broncos are. I don't think anybody had that earlier this season. I don't think anybody had that. So Bo Nix, 2 TDs for 72 yards and no interceptions. Definitely making a case for rookie offensive player of the year. Gardner Minshew, 230 yards, a TD and interception. He got banged up. Now he's done for the year. So, big loss for the Raiders there. Again, yeah, I mean, the Broncos, like I said, I don't think anybody had them this early this season. Look, Cordis only had 2 TDs, receiving TDs, 97 receiving yards, and just a really a solid game for the Broncos.
I think Will Lutz, their kicker, had 5 field goals yesterday. So if my memory serves correctly, he had 5 field goals yesterday. So he was the majority of the Denver Broncos offense for a while. Shout out to Courtland Sutton, their star wide receiver. He had 2 receiving touchdowns to help put it away. The Broncos, their defense is stellar. I know it doesn't scare anybody, but they're aggressive, they're hungry, and they showed that yesterday. Now, offensively, the running game was not as strong as I thought, but you mentioned Bo Nix. He kept it simple with 273 yards passing and those 2 touchdown passes to Sutton. So Denver, they're playing the kind of complementary football that you need for a young team, and give head coach Sean Payton credit that he has them in the mix for a playoff spot.
Again, they definitely should be in the running for Coach of the Year, I think, Sean Payton. But yeah, we'll talk about that down the line. The America's Game of the Week, well, it wasn't really. It was all Packers, 38-10 over the 49ers. 2 TDs for Jordan Love, 163 yards. Again, not his best game. Josh Jacobs, who, of course, got the LFG, of course, Tom Brady's let's effing go player of the game, 106 yards and 3 TDs, rushing TDs. Romeo Dobbs had 54 receiving yards. And like I said, it was basically all Packers. I mean, a lot of, Brendan Allen, 199 yards, a TD, but just, the interceptions just couldn't get it going. Christian McCaffrey, 31 rushing yards. He's still trying to get it going. And okay, let's do. Okay, well, George Kittle had 82 receiving yards to say, and a TD catch. The only TD catch for the 49ers. So let's start with the Packers side of it first. I mean, the Packers looked really good. Again, they had to scrimp, lead the block field goal to beat the Bears, but they dominated the 49ers, the 49ers squad, mind you.
Yeah, we knew that Josh Jacobs was going to be a big difference for the Packers after he was traded from the Raiders in the offseason. And in my opinion, he's been their best player on at least offensively for this Packers team. Don't forget Jordan Love is still injured with that groin, so they took the pressure off of him yesterday, which was very smart. And hopefully we'll see Jordan Love, if you're a Packers fan, get back on track. Around this time last year, he was starting to play like a top 5 quarterback. Hopefully he can get back to somewhat of that level this year, even though he is still banked up. On the flip side for the 49ers, self-inflicted wounds. As you mentioned, I did check out part of this game via NFL Red Zone Live. And with George Kittle's touchdown, cut that lead to 17-7. I said maybe the 49ers are showing a little bit of fight. Their defense did try hard, but you could tell they missed Nick Bosa. And Leonard Floyd, the former Chicago Bear, got a sack on Jordan Love, so congrats to him. But it was self-inflicted wounds with the interceptions and the turnovers, and failed to get key stops on third down. That's why the Packers were the better team yesterday. That's why they won by 28 points.
Now, the 49ers are 5-6, definitely the worst of around this time in Kyle Shanahan's era. Someone actually put up a tweet saying, is Kyle Shanahan on the hot seat? Now, let's remember, folks, this is his first losing part of, the first time under 500 since he's been there. So for people who want him gone, go ahead, 49ers. He won't even make it to the park lot before somebody picks him up, whether it's the Jets, the Bears, Giants, Raiders maybe, or what have you. So they're not going to do it. So people who need to kind of stop it, but I digress.
Yeah. 49ers, as we said, they've been dealing with injuries all year. And if Brock Purdy's out for the next few weeks, do they give Daniel Jones, of the former New York Giants quarterback, a call? Let's watch out for that one.
Definitely something to look out for as well. This is Second City Sports on Sports Channel. Lakina McGee, Sydney Brown with you. The last game, the 3 o'clock game, second in the NFC West. The Seahawks? 16-6 over the Cardinals. And again, I had to swallow this one up too. Thanks a lot, Arizona. The one. Now I see how Sid felt earlier this season. Jeez. Geno Smith, 1 TD and 254 yards. This is despite the Cardinals. Well, both him and Kyler Murray each got sacked 5 times. So it was a battle of the sacks, I guess. But Smith was able to make the big plays, and the Seahawks just were able to kind of eke out another win. And now I believe they're leading the NFC West, if I'm not mistaken, right now.
Yeah. Yep. Seattle leads the NFC West with the 6-5 record. They own the tiebreaker over Arizona since they beat them yesterday. For Arizona, where is the running game? I didn't see no James Conner. Excuse my broken English. I didn't see Kyler Murray running forward. He was running backwards, as you say. He got sacked 5 times. Trey McBride was the only offensive star for the Cardinals. Their stud tight end, 12 catches for 133 yards. But on the flip side for Seattle, Jackson Smith and Nimba is starting to become the big target for Seattle. DK Metcalf, where are you, buddy? I have him on my fantasy team, but I digress from that. But Geno Smith didn't have the world's greatest performance. He pulled a Trent Dilfer again, but Seattle's defense that's what carried the day. And shout out to Kobe Bryant. No, not the one you thinking of. May his soul rest in peace. But the defensive back Kobe Bryant of the Seahawks did the beast mode celebration going into the end zone. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was actually pretty funny. But I saw a clip of that. That was actually pretty cool on his part. But I mean, Seattle, you thought that maybe things were kind of starting to fall off a little bit. They beat San Francisco in San Francisco, and now they've beaten the Cardinals. Now they're leading the NFC West. So it should be interesting down the stretch there. Now, speaking in the NFC West, we're staying out west for the Sunday nighter. The Rams, the Eagles, but it was all Eagles 37-20 over the Rams. And I saw a little bit of this game. I kind of kept in the background once it started getting a little bit out of hand late in the third. Jalen Hurts, 179 yards and a TD. But it was Mr. Saquon Barkley, 255 yards and 2 TDs. And here's a little stat for you, Sid, if I can find it. Yeah. He's the first NFL player to have 500-plus yards over a 2-game span since Walter Payton did it all the way back in November of 1977. And he leads the league in rushing. I'm talking about Barkley, and you could probably say, is he kind of like in the discussion with Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen for possibly MVP?
Oh yes, he is. So you can't tell me he's not on a revenge tour, especially after we saw what happened on social media or on TV. If you watch the New York Giants Hard Knocks offseason edition, well, they chose Daniel Jones over Saquon, and look what's happening now. But back to the present time. Saquon Barkley, you mentioned, over 255 yards rushing, 2 long touchdown runs last night. He is fresh. He's making the Philadelphia Eagles offense go. I know Jalen Hurts should have did more. I have him on my fantasy team, but I digress. But the Eagles did what they had to do against a team in the Rams that you thought that they were coming together. But this is another ugly loss at home for the Rams. A couple of weeks ago, they got smacked around by Miami on Monday Night Football. What happened yesterday on Sunday Night Football, they get smacked around again against a better team in Philadelphia. Can the Rams make something out of this season? I think they can. They're 1 game below 500, but they got to get back to running the football with some consistency, and the defense got to get rolling again because their defense has been lackluster in these last 2-3 weeks.
Well, Barkley will do that to a defense. Even some good defense, especially when you don't have an answer for that. They did lose. The Eagles did lose Brandon Graham for the year with torn biceps. So that could be a loss for them, that front seven. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, the Eagles are starting to kind of get together. They're 9-2. They lead. Of course, we go with Washington's a couple in a row. But we're just to see if they can take control of the NFC East. Now, does and does for week 12 of the NFL.
All right, my first stud will be Jalen Waddle, the wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. 8 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown as the Dolphins blow out the New England Patriots 34-15. My second stud will be Baker Mayfield, 24-30, 294 yards and a rushing TD, mocking Tommy DeVito in that celebration as the Buccaneers blow out the New York Football Giants 30-7. And my third stud will be Bo Nix of the Denver Broncos, 25-42, 273 yards and two touchdown passes, both to Courtland Sutton, as the Broncos stay alive in the playoff race, beating the Raiders in Las Vegas 29-19.
Saquon Barkley, of course, is my first stud. Of course, 500 over 500 yards in a 2-game span. That's just amazing, especially in this this state of the NFL. I'll go back to Thursday. That Cleveland with their win in that cool little snow globe bowl, as they call it, the 2024 edition. The defense played well. Jameis played well, so you gotta give them props there. And my third side, I should say, is Tennessee for Will Levis actually looked good. So, that's all you can really ask for there. So, yeah, those are my 3 studs.
My bonus stud is Kadarius Turb, if I pronounce his name correctly, for the Dallas Cowboys with that kickoff return, which set that wild sequence in the fourth quarter. Fumbles the ball, picks it up, does the Sega Genesis NFL 94 video game spin, and runs up the far sideline and went up for a touchdown to put the Cowboys ahead, in which they held on to win as the Dallas Cowboys beat the Washington Commanders 34-26.
All right, going to the duds now. Well, staying with that Washington Dallas game, I'll give the Commanders my dud. I mean, defense, come on now. I mean, y'all giving up a lot of big plays. You actually were able to kind of tame the Bears a little bit. It seems like after they got called for that false start, it seems like the wheels have kind of fallen off for that Commanders defense. Hopefully they can get it together, like you said, because this season can get away from them pretty quick if they don't get their minds right. My other again, going back to Thursday, Pittsburgh. What the heck happened? Russell Wilson, really? Some of those throws, honey. It's not your first. You play in Seattle where it snowed a little. It snowed a little bit in Seattle, so you had to play in the snow. But I digress. My third dud is Houston. What happened? Like, are you gonna do some soul searching there? Because luckily you're not in a good division. The AFC stuff is kind of, but even still, if you want to go far in the playoffs, take that next step. You got to clean up some things, get the running game going. You got a great running back in Joe Mixon. Use him, please.
All right, my 3 studs are as follows. 1, the Chicago Bears special teams for allowing the blocked field goal for a second consecutive week on the same damn side where it happened last week against the Packers. Number 2, the New York Football Giants produces only 7 points, and those 7 points came in garbage time. And my third dud will go to the Arizona Cardinals. 6 points. Even though I did pick Seattle on the show last Friday to win, I was correct. But still, Arizona 6 points. I expected a little bit more out of them. Where was your running game?
Well, that was because I picked Arizona, so now I look like a fool. Like I said, I'll have to take the L on that one, but that was not good, not good there. Not good by me. But again, I digress. And those are your studs and does for this week and week 12 of the NFL. You listen to Second City Sports on Sports in Chicago. Keenan McGee, Steve Brown with you. Of course, I know we got to go. We're up against it. We got to go to break. But a little preview of the Harbaugh Bowl Part 2 as Baltimore faces the Los Angeles Chargers of San Diego, as we call them here. These games will be simulcast on ABC, ESPN. Also, there will be a Manning cast tonight as well. I think if you're Baltimore, you want to try to set the tone early. Try to use Derrick Henry early, and if you're the Chargers, you want to try to get your defense. Try to slow it down. Use J.K. Dobbins if you want to keep Lamar and Henry in that offense off the field. kind of like, it's gonna be interesting to see how that goes. Because look, I know their parent, Jim and John Harbaugh's parents, I know they're gonna be there and such. So this is gonna be interesting. There's gonna be a lot of mentions of that. So if you have to, I would say take the over if there is a bet on that.
Well, the over on the total, the over on the total as of this live broadcast is 50.5. So if Vegas expect this to be a high scoring game, I don't know. If it is, I don't think the Chargers can keep up because as you said, Jim Harbaugh's teams are not built that way. It's built on running the football and playing physical defense. I think it's just going to be to see who's going to out physical who. And the Baltimore Ravens, I know their pass defense stinks this year, but their run defense is actually pretty decent. So, and the Ravens offense, as I said last week, Lakina, before that Pittsburgh game, that it could look like a pedestrian offense. It did last week. Offensively, they got to turn it around tonight. You set the tone, Baltimore. Derrick Henry, he's back. He could be considered for MVP on the outside looking in as well. I know he didn't have a great start last week at Pittsburgh fumbling the ball, but he's had a great season. You started with him running the football tonight. And Lamar Jackson, he must play better. Even though he's going up against a tougher defense than he did last week at Pittsburgh, he's got to stand upright and make better decisions. If they do that, Baltimore will win this ball game. I picked Baltimore to win last Friday. I picked them, of course, to win tonight.
Should be a fun one. And of course, Owen and Luke Wilson, of course, the actor brothers. And also, too, interesting, some people say it could be the Buccaneers head coach. Mike Vrabel will be part of the part of the Manning cast as well. So we'll just see how some of his thoughts on perhaps me going back to the head coaching. So should be fun tonight.
We draw a curtain close to hour number 1. We'll open up the curtains for hour number 2 as we continue on the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. The Bulls had mixed results over the weekend, but a couple of young players that had outstanding performances will give you their grades and coming up. Plus the rest of the action from the weekend in the NBA, including a key entry to a surprising young team. We'll recap college football. There's some moving and shaking in the college football playoff. And we'll have a special tribute to Mr. Chuck Woolery. That and a whole lot more. You stick and stay right here on the Monday edition of Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago.
No, I don't know, though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane?
No, not at all.
Are you not paying attention? Are you texting?
I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6.
It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention.
I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up.
My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention.
It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Hi, I'm Tom Brady, the director of DODEA. September is National Suicide Prevention and Awareness Month. The simple act of reaching out and caring for those in our communities is something we all can do. Just being there for someone you care about can be a tremendous first step in getting them access to confidential resources and support that they need. It only takes one person and one small act and 1 minute to make a difference. Let's make a difference.
Many will hear the calling. Few will earn the title. United States Marine. The few, the proud, the Marines.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Second City Sports, the Monday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Lakina McGee is she. Sydney Brown, you know that's me. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kenny McGee on the Twitter, execute again, IG.
And if you have any questions or comments for us as we get into some Chicago Bulls / NBA talk, you can hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or at Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments to the comments section. Lakina will get them up on the screen for you.
Once again, it was a mixed bag for the Bulls as well. Okay, good news is that they actually got their first win for the Emirates NBA Cup. Yay!
Yay!
As they defeated Atlanta, as we thought they would. We all knew they were going to beat Atlanta on Friday, 136, 112. 122, I should say, for Atlanta. Zach LaVine had 26 points, leading the way for the Bulls. Their their first home game in the NBA Cup. Now 1-2 there. But yeah, I mean, it was a really great team win for the Bulls. In group play, that was probably the best that they've looked in group play. So I guess you can kind of take the little things if you're a Bulls fan. I saw, again, not being able to watch the games. I actually saw the highlights, but everyone, again, all 5 stars were in double figures for the Bulls. So that's all you can ask for there. 20 points for Io. Kobe White had 20. Vooch had another double, 18 and 13. Jalen Smith had 13, and Dalen Terry had 12 off the bench. So yeah, a couple young players actually making some contributions for the Bulls. So yeah, a nice overall good team win.
Yeah, the Bulls looked great offensively last Friday at home. We talked about on our last show that coming into that game against Atlanta, the Bulls shot better on the road from three-point range than they did at home. They shot 40% on the road from three compared to 30% at home. That trend was flipped last Friday as the Bulls shot 57% overall, but 44% from three. As we said before, Lakina, if the Bulls had any chance of winning any games consistently, since the defense is going to be so bad this year, they would have to shoot above 45% each game for them to even have a chance to win. That's difficult to do in today's NBA, and no one can keep up that pace. But the Bulls, like you mentioned, they had balanced scoring from Zach LaVine on down. And I know Patrick Williams is injured right now. He's supposed to be back later this week. We'll see what happens there. They're still without Lonzo Ball. I don't know if he's ever going to return, but we'll see what happens with him. But the Bulls, it was a team effort. We know Atlanta, outside of Trae Young and maybe Clint Capella, they stink. So I expected the Bulls to win this game, and they won it basically going away. Don't let that final score fool you, but they won this game handily go away. I actually got a chance to watch some of this game live.
Yeah, the antenna. On the flip side, on the flip side though, for the Bulls and the next night against the Grizzlies, they scored 131 points, but unfortunately the Grizzlies scored 142 as they beat the Bulls back in regular play. Scottie Pippen Jr. has looked really good so far. We didn't get a chance to talk about this a couple of weeks back. He actually had a triple-double, and of course we know his dad, Scottie Sr., did that, and still, 30 points and 10 assists for him as he led the way for the Grizzlies as they beat the Bulls. Jalen Wells had 26 points. Jalen Jackson, not different spelling, 23 points for them and that there. Now for lose over for the Bulls, 29 for Mr. Zach LaVine. Vooch had another double. He didn't have double this time. He had 26 points. And it was, again, not a good score for the Bulls. Just couldn't get the defense going.
Yeah, of course, we knew that the defense was going to be bad for the Bulls, but this is the same repeating trend that I do not like, and it started to occur with this Bulls team. Remember a couple weeks ago, Utah came in here, half their team was out, and the Bulls still lost by double digits on their home floor. No John Morant. No Zach Edey for Memphis, and the Grizzlies still ended up beating the Bulls by double digits. So it's an ugly trend. The Bulls must stop, and I don't know where they go from here on now. I know they're done with Memphis for the year, but the Bulls just got to stop, trying to play down to the competition when they see that the stars on the other side are not playing, and that's going to be a problem. But on the flip side, I would like to give these two players credit for at least. Looks like Billy Donovan is giving them extended playing time, especially with the injury to Patrick Williams. Jalen Smith, I've been on him all year in a positive way. I like the way he's been playing, and he's been getting 15 to 18 minutes a game these last two games. And Montez Buzelis, the rookie that the Bulls drafted, it looks like he's starting to get a little bit more playing time. He had a better performance. Some of that was in garbage time. Last Saturday, 14 points, including 6 of 13 shooting, 2 from 5 from downtown. I really like the way this young man is playing right now. So I'd like to give credit to both those young guys, Buzelis and Jalen Smith.
Yeah, both of them looked really good. I saw Buzelis had a couple of nice shots there in that game against Memphis on Saturday. So, I think maybe he is going to – I'm sure Donovan's going to play them a little bit more, like you said, with P. Will being out for a little bit. So, they've been able to kind of, show a little bit of that. Even if P. Will win, I'm sure it's going to be later this week. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how, how both these players – I think there's one way you're going to get better is that they have playing time. So, hopefully this is the start of a trend maybe he'll still do that even when Pat P. Will comes back this week.
Yeah. One player that I am concerned about, Lakina, looks like he's starting to play well, but maybe it's just me being the pessimist that I am. Josh Giddey, I know he had 12 points last Saturday against the Memphis Grizzlies in the loss, but maybe it's just me and someone that knows way better than I do, but I expected him to be more aggressive. I know he had all this hype coming in with that Caruso trade over the summer. He's a nice young player, but I thought that he would be more aggressive offensively. I still haven't seen that in a consistent basis yet. Maybe we'll start to see it as the season goes along. But me personally, I just haven't seen it yet. I know this has been an adjustment period for him to start off the year, but hopefully we can see him play with more consistency, trending up offensively.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be interesting. I know Giddey hasn't played there, but a couple times he hasn't played. So you basically gave up Caruso for nothing. So you better try to play Giddey as much as you can. So, but again, should be interesting to see what happens there. But that's definitely something to look out for in these next few weeks. Now going to the rest of the schedule for the NBA. Yesterday's games, Brooklyn upset Sacramento. Well, not really. I guess a mild upset. 108-103. Cleveland beat Toronto. The Clippers beat the Sixers. Sixers are just
they're a sad-ass story in the NBA right now.
Yeah, 22 points for Mr. James Harden. The Heat with a nice one in overtime over Dallas, 123-118. Jimmy Butler had 33 points net effort there last night.
Yeah, he looked like Jermaine Stewart before the start of last season. R.I.P. Chicago's very young, by the way, old school singer and former Soul Train dancer. But I digress. Jimmy Butler, I know he was the subject of trade talks, if you believe the reports throughout the off season, but those talks were put on hold. He showed clearly had his best game of the season. Dallas, they're kind of disappointing here in spots there, especially with Luka Doncic. But Jimmy Butler, he wants to be that dude. He's always been that dude over the last several years. We saw that in early stages here in Chicago, and he stepped up to the plate when it mattered most.
Indiana beat Washington, and the only one here last night. I saw a little bit highlights of this. We had the Celtics edge out the T-Wolves 107-105. Jaylen Brown had 29 points and 28 points for Anthony Edwards. And Minnesota, we always talk about with our buddy Alex Osmus from ABC5 in the Twin Cities, and I'm not liking how these T-Wolves look so far. I know T-Wolves fans are a little bit on edge right now, but you hope they can get it together. This is a tough loss for them on yesterday.
Yeah, we talked about this coming to year. Lakina, Julius Randle, I think, is a better fit for that team, especially offensively, than Karl Anthony Towns. But it's all about developing that chemistry, develop that trust in one another, and just develop some consistency. And they can do that, which they have the talent to do. Don't forget about Dante DiVincenzo, another addition, part of that trade over the summer. He's over there in Minnesota as well. It's all about developing positive habits and having that trust between you and your head coach, because if you don't, there's going to be problems, as you see in Philadelphia.
Well, it hasn't gotten that bad yet from them, so hopefully it doesn't. Going to Saturday's matchups, Denver once again got the best of the Lakers. 127-102. Jokic had 34 points. Also, Reed's only 16 and at 19, I should say, for the Lakers, as they definitely struggle from the field. I'm talking about the Lakers on Saturday.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of this game. Actually, I saw the majority of the first half of this game last Saturday before I had to go to bed. But Jokic, we talked about, he missed last week's game at Memphis. He was gearing up for this one, and like you said, he put in 34 points. And Russell Westbrook, one-time former Laker, had a good game as well. So the Lakers, their juggernaut is the Denver Nuggets, and what we saw from the Lakers against Denver in the playoffs of the last couple of years, they were right there, but Denver, just even though Denver's team is much different this year, they still have an overall better talent roster than the Lakers do. So you go ask LeBron and Anthony Davis to do so much, but he's got to be your role players for the Lakers that have to come through. Yes, don't connect. Just have a nice start to his rookie season, but you got to have guys like Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell step up and do it consistently.
Excuse me, absolutely. Spurs beat the Warriors 104-95. There was a little bit of a mean of Victor Wembanyama with Draymond. I think we forget how tall Wembanyama is. I mean, and we know Draymond's not that tall. He's only like 6'7". So that was a little bit weird to see. But yeah, speaking of, he had 25 points, and as he helped the Spurs beat the Warriors there out there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, I saw a little bit of this game live. Both teams struggled to shoot the ball, especially from the outside in that first half. Steph tried to get it going here a little bit. I know Andrew Wiggins had a couple of big buckets, but that San Antonio team, I told you, Lakina, at the start of the year, long as Victor Wembanyama stays healthy, he has a nice little veteran presence around him with Chris Paul and Harrison Barnes. Don't forget about Keldon Johnson as well. We saw him in the Olympics a few years ago, and he's a nice young player for the Spurs. So they have a nice, decent core, and I know get well soon, Greg Popovich, but if the Spurs can play along or around 500 pace, they can wind up in the play-in tournament, but we still have a long way to go.
Milwaukee beat Charlotte 125-119. Portland beat Houston in a kind of a mild upset. Orlando beats Detroit, and a little bit of upset here as the Knicks start off their West Coast trip. The Jazz got the best of them, 121-106. Laurie Marketed had 34 points, a season high for him.
Yeah, the New York Knicks and Tom Thibodeau, they're struggling defensively. We kind of expected that once the season started. We talked about from the Minnesota side of things, that trade for Karl-Anthony Towns. Karl-Anthony Towns is great offensively, defensively. He could play it a little bit, but he's not the dominant player like his former teammate Rudy Gobert is. But the Knicks usually struggle a little bit around this time of year on a West Coast road trip, but they got to get it together as they stay on the road for the next week and a half or so. But going back to that Charlotte-Milwaukee game, Lakina, a big injury to Grant Williams, the former Boston Celtic. Remember, he went at it with Jimmy Butler a couple years ago in the Eastern Conference Finals. He was with the Celtics. He suffered a torn ACL. He's going to be gone for years. Best wishes to him as the young Charlotte Hornets has suffered a big injury.
Yeah, just when you thought that maybe they were starting to kind of think and take that next step and perhaps get into the play-in tournament, this happens. So tough injury for the Hornets. So hopefully they can, bounce back and keep at least within striking distance of that play-in. Going to the Emirates NBA Cup games on Friday, you had the Clippers beat the Kings. Dallas edged Denver 123-120, and it was Najee Marshall who had 26 points. It was a career high for him.
Yeah, it looks like he's going to be that third guy for the Dallas Mavericks, next to Kyrie Irving, next to Luka Doncic. And don't forget about Klay Thompson. I know he's not the player that he once was, but Klay Thompson doesn't have to carry that second load like he did in his younger days with the Golden State Warriors. It's going to be important for Marshall and Thompson just to be consistent. If Irving and or Doncic falls off, one of those two guys can step up and pick up the pieces offensively.
Definitely gonna need that consistency from Mr. Marshall. Houston beat Portland. Milwaukee, pulled away from Indiana. Golden State beat the Pelicans. Boston, no trouble with the Wizards, and a rare win for Philadelphia. They beat the Nets 113-98 as Jared McLean had a career high 30 points. And look at the Sixers are going to have any shot of anything at this point. They gotta, some of the other guys got to step up a little bit because we know Embiid's still trying to find his way. PG can't stay healthy. It's just been a lot. Max is inconsistent, so it's just things are kind of falling off for the Sixers, and we're still not even a month into the season.
You want to take it back when they're going to win their next game?
Chill. Again, we'll see what the schedule that they got because they got a tough one coming up. Let's get right to it here. For Monday, as we got Orlando and Charlotte. Well, we'll just do Monday and Tuesday because we'll do the rest of the games on our special edition on Wednesday. Orlando and Charlotte, Toronto and Detroit, New Orleans and Indiana, Dallas and Atlanta. LA starts their gets to their East Coast road trip going. That should be a fun one in Boston. Dallas and Atlanta. And Dallas and Atlanta, that's going to be on NBA TV. That's the first game of that doubleheader tonight. And the Clippers, of course, in Boston, Portland, and Memphis. The Knicks and Denver. That should be an interesting one there. Hopefully, Tibbs doesn't tear out his hair. At the Mile High City. Brooklyn and Golden State. And this should be a fun one in Sacramento. You got OKC and the Kings at 9:00. That's the second game of the NBA TV doubleheader.
I cannot wait for that one. I know OKC has been struggling a little bit as of late, but this should be a track meet between these two teams, and I can't wait to watch that one. Going to tomorrow's schedule, Tuesday, as the NBA Cup group play continues, your Chicago Bulls will travel to the nation's capital to take on the 2-13 Washington Wizards. If the Bulls cannot win this game, we have issues. I'll leave it at that. In other NBA Cup group play for tomorrow, we have Milwaukee at Miami. That's the first game of that TNT Tuesday night doubleheader. Other games that are that followed in the schedule: Houston's at Minnesota, San Antonio is at Utah, and the second game of that TNT Tuesday night NBA Cup doubleheader will feature the Los Angeles Lakers at the Phoenix Suns.
And I believe KD should be back for this game because they haven't, like I said, they haven't played in like 3 or 4 days. I'll talk about the Suns, so he should be back for this game. So again, we'll see if his that calf is good to go. Because if so, this should be a very entertaining game out there in Phoenix.
And that's your schedule for the next 2 nights in the National Basketball Association. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago City. Lakina here running here with you on this Monday afternoon. We have a couple minutes left before we have to break for the bottoming out. Lakina, you said you had a chance to check out. I didn't have a chance to, unfortunately, but you had a chance to peep in on some early season college basketball. Tell the folks, how was it over the weekend?
Yeah, it was actually pretty solid. I believe I'm trying to think where this tournament was, but Wisconsin and Pittsburgh they battled out in the tournament. I think down there in South Carolina. Wisconsin won like 48-46 or something like that. So if you took the under, you had a nice addition to late addition to your weekend. So yeah, that's there. But of course, with Thanksgiving coming up, you got the tournaments in Hawaii and in the Bahamas. I believe that Alaska too. I think there's another one out there. So yeah, so kind of your typical for this time of year. Of course, you get the tournaments going there. So that should be some interesting matchups there. So I gotta look through the schedule real quick. Let me get that up here, but yeah, I mean, look, Purdue's looked really good so far. Marquette, they had a nice win against Georgia over the weekend. Illinois, they're undefeated. They took care of Maryland Eastern Shore over the weekend. So Brandon Woods got his guys undefeated. Chris Holman got DePaul undefeated too. I think they were like 5-0 for the first time since like the mid 2000s. So
because Andre Brown was there back in 03-04.
Yeah, something like that. So they beat NIU over the weekend. So no trouble there. So we'll see if they can kind of keep it up once they get into conference play. I want to see how they look against the Marquette. Nebraska with a nice win against Creighton on Saturday as well. This is the second straight time they've beaten Creighton in Omaha. And it should be interesting to see how kind of all this goes, because this is supposed to be like a rebuild year for Fred Hoiberg's crew. So, and so I'm just going to see what happens there with that. So that could be a good, nice little tournament boost for them. Rutgers been playing very well. and some other things. So yeah, it should like so far so good. Really good, interesting first few weeks of college hoops.
I was looking through the schedule via my phone last night, and I think when one of those tournament games, I believe on Friday, Duke plays Kansas or Arizona. You can correct me on that. And I was like, it'll be the second time for me I get a chance to see Cooper Rush, of course, the 6'9", 6'7" from New Jersey, the freshman sensation of Duke. And I told you I watched it almost 2 weeks ago against Kentucky. That was my first chance watching him from start to finish. He looks pretty good. He's athletic for his size. He can create his own shot. He's aggressive. He can get after it, and his game will definitely work in today's NBA. So I cannot wait to see him early this week. What's been your early impressions about him so far? Do you think he's worthy of the hype?
I think so far so good. I think Kentucky kind of took him a step back a little bit because that defense, that zone defense, kind of got him a little bit. He has to improve on that, but I think he can. I think he's looked really good so far. I think they do put them. I gotta look at that schedule. I think they do play in one of those
Cooper Flag, I should say, not
later.
Cooper Rush. Cooper Flag. I'm thinking about the Cowboys quarterback.
Well, I knew who you meant, but Cooper Flag. I mean, he's been really solid so far, and I mean, it could be interesting to see how kind of all this goes for Duke. Duke's look really good so far this year. You have some interesting matchups coming up. You have Auburn at Iowa State playing in Maui. They're playing a first round game in the Bahamas, I believe. And you got Alabama playing Houston in Las Vegas tomorrow. So that should be a fun matchup there. Battle of top 10 teams. And yes, they are playing. I'm talking about Kansas and Duke. They're also playing at Vegas after that game. So that should be a fun one tomorrow. That's good. Most of those games going to be on ESPN. So that should be a fun matchup there. And I'm kind of looking forward to it. I like these early season matches because this is actually, like I said, this could bode well for seed, especially when it comes time to March Madness.
Mm-hmm. And also too, I think it's the Fighting Illini will play, I believe, Arkansas on Thursday. We'll check the schedule, but they played Arkansas on Thursday in one of them tournaments. I know it's on CBS. It's following the Bears game, so I'll probably catch a good nap to watch that one instead of focusing on the Bears.
Oh gosh, let me look that up real quick. I know they play Arkansas Little Rock, I think, tonight. And you are right. They do play Arkansas. Coach Cal and his guys down there in Kansas City on Thanksgiving. We'll have more about that on Wednesday. But yeah, that should be a fun one down there in KC.
Yep. So like I said, the Fighting Illini looking good, and hopefully some of the area teams will pick up their play. Like I said, I know you care more about DePaul than the rest of us, including our guy Joshua M. Hicks. I know he covers them as well. He went to school there as well. So we'll see DePaul what they're really made of once again to Big East play.
I mean, yeah, so far so good for Chris Holman. He's done a really good job there. But like I said, we'll see how everybody start playing like the St. John's, the Marquette, the Creighton's. Yeah, I want and build, and of course UConn. They got to play the national, the defending champs. They look really good too. So we'll see what they're made of after the Christmas break. We'll take a really quick break. Of course, we'll do a little college football and maybe some NHL. As one coach doesn't stay unemployed for long, gets a new job. And then, of course, our tribute to Chuck Woolery for Old School TV Monday, the Kingdom McGee, Cindy Brown, Second City Sports. Sports Chicago coming up, more fun coming up in 2 and 2. Stay tuned.
This year, my mom got me the perfect bag for back to school.
These colorful binders help me stay organized.
These headphones are just what I need for studying.
These new sneakers are just what I needed for the new year.
This jacket is a real must-have.
My parents got me the skateboard I wanted. It's pretty cool.
These scissors really come in handy in art class.
These colored pencils, too. These new socks, they can be a real lifesaver. I finally got my own phone to stay in touch with my mom.
Trisha's having a sleepover tonight. Can I go?
I wonder about Lucy's friends. What should I say? I know you're only 10, but one of these days a friend will offer you a drink. And alcohol at your age can lead to so many things. None of them good.
So can I go to the sleepover?
Lucy, I want you to promise me
I
something.
finished my homework.
Bigger promise. If there's any drinking, I want you to say, "No thanks, not my thing."
Mom.
I promise you. Your real friends won't care. Deal?
Sure.
Really?
I promise, Mom.
They really do hear you.
Did you pack your toothbrush?
For tips on how to start the talk, visit underagedrinking.samhsa.gov. A public service message from the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration.
Hey, this is Dr. J, and I listen to Sean and Maya in the morning.
Welcome back to Second City Sports on a Monday edition. You're live in the living color right here on Sports Zone Chicago. I'm Sid. That's Lakina. You can follow yours surely on the Twitter, X, and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, it's SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80.
You can follow my Kingdom McGee on the Twitter, executes again, IG.
This is our last show for. This is our last break on the show for today. So, if you have any last minute questions or comments for us, you can always hit us up at Sports Zone Chicago's Facebook page or Sports Zone Chicago on YouTube. Type in those questions or comments in the comment section. Look in, we'll get the up on the screen for you.
All right, so let's go to week 13 of college football as things are kind of getting down to the wire here, as some teams are kind of sending messages while others, depending on you look at it, not so much. We'll start on Friday. Friday's games as UNLV. On Friday, UNLV, they beat San Jose State 27-16. They still got a lot to do to clinch a spot in the Mountain West title game. We'll talk about that later this week on Wednesday. Michigan State pulled away from Purdue. Indiana and Ohio State. Well, this was a game for like 5 minutes, but Will Howard 200 yards and 2 TDs, and it was all Ohio State, and it was just like you kind of figured it was going to be a step up in class, I guess, for Indiana. Like I said, this is this Ohio State squad was probably going to be the best team they played all year long, and let's just say it wasn't meant to be for Indiana. As just not a good showing there. And with that said, they were only held to Indiana was only held to 83 net rushing yards, 68 net passing yards. Is the first time this century that AP top 5 team was held to so few yards in a regular season game. So yeah, Ohio State, they didn't take Indiana lightly.
Yeah, Ohio State for the second straight week survived a slow start. It was the pump block last week at Chicago at Wrigley Field to help get them going to blow out Northwestern. After a slow first quarter, they did what they had to do, including a nice punt return down the sidelines. That's the Ohio State Buckeyes beat Indiana 38-15. You mentioned Will Howard. He did play well. He didn't have the stats to back it up, but they didn't need him to carry the way. Emeka Ibuka, their star wide receiver, 7 catches, 80 yards, and a touchdown. He had a big day. it was like you said, it was a step up in class for Indiana. Ohio State, as they proved to be, they made a statement why they're the number 2 team in the country. I know they'll face Michigan on Saturday. We'll preview that game coming up on our special edition of Second City Sports coming up in a couple of days on Wednesday. But, Lakina, I'll ask you this question about Indiana. Do you think they still in the driver's seat to get one of those top 5 spots for the college football playoff, which is extended to 12 teams going forward, as people that don't know, they're jumping on the train late?
It's gonna be kind of tough because it depends on where they're at tomorrow once the rankings are out and the playoff rankings I'm talking about. They play Purdue on Friday, and it's gonna be interesting to see if they can kind of Saturday, I should say, and it'll be interesting to see if they can kind of they may have to kind of beat Purdue up pretty well to kind of make a case. So for me, I think I don't know if they'll be able to get a spot. Like I said, a lot has happened in front of them, but we'll see. I mean, I think the fact that they didn't keep it close against Ohio State, that's really going to kind of deter them a little bit. The committee might not like the fact that they didn't keep it close. So we'll see. But it's going to be tough for Indiana.
All right, number 3, Texas dominates the Kentucky Wildcats 31-14. Quinn Ayers for Texas, their star quarterback, 20 of 31, 191 yards and 2 touchdowns. Their star wide receiver, Matthew Golden, living my life like it's golden. Shout out Jill Scott. 7 catches for 86 receiving yards.
Texas looking really good so far, and they're going to be clinching their first ever spot in an SEC championship game. So Texas looked really good. You thought that maybe Kentucky was giving a hard time. That didn't happen. So a little bit there. Penn State literally had to hang on against Minnesota, had their chances to try to make it pull off the upset, but they're credit, they made it work for it. But that was a tough one. They kind of left a lot of points on the board. I'm talking about Minnesota.
Yeah, Drew Aller was the man of the hour for Penn State. Their star quarterback, 21 of 28, 243 yards and a touchdown. Their star tight end, Tyler Warren, 8 catches for 102 yards. But it was Omari Evans that grabbed the touchdown for the Nittany Lions to in that second half, which proved to be the difference. As Penn State, as you mentioned, they hang on for a 26-25 win. Minnesota is bowl eligible, but they kind of had an up and down year this year. They were right there with USC. I think they beat USC, they beat Illinois, but they have a couple bad losses that we discussed with our guests last Friday. PJ Fleck, I know they have, I believe, one more game left, so they can still finish strong, end up with a 7-5 season, which if you look at it, they could have at least 3 losses and have a better bowl game, but it's not going to turn out the way for them this year.
Yeah, I think they play Iowa, I believe, on Saturday, and to finish up the regular season. And I think for the ball, I think was the buck for the Axe. I keep getting those trophies mixed up. But yeah, you can probably say that they probably should have as many wins as the Illini. I will get to them in a second, but yeah, they left a lot of wins out there. Especially this could have been one of those wins. So, but I digress. Notre Dame, no trouble with Army, 49-14. Well, over at Owen Field in Norman, Oklahoma, they did something they haven't done as long as I can remember. They actually stormed the field as Oklahoma upset Alabama 24-3, and this is probably easily Brett Venables' best win since becoming an OU head coach. Things are kind of going to looking better. They have a lot of top recruits coming in. These guys are going to come to their own in the SEC. They are 6-5, so they will be going to a bowl game. But this is probably
Yeah, Jalen Monroe did not have a great game for Alabama. He was 11-26 for 164 yards and 3 interceptions. But on the flip side for Oklahoma, Jackson Arnold was the star of the game. Their star running back had 25 carries for 131 yards. And back to Alabama, Jeremy Bernard had 4 catches for 60 yards. Alabama had the early 3-0 lead, but Oklahoma scored 24 unanswered points the rest of the way. And Alabama, for the first time in a long time, will now be part of the college football playoff. We're going down to South Beach right now as number 8 Miami takes care of Wake Forest 42-14. Cameron Ward, who's a top candidate for the Heisman Trophy, he had 280 yards passed with 2 touchdown passes off of 27-38 passing. Their star running back Jordan Lyle had 7 carries, 115 yards and a touchdown. And their star wide receiver, Jacoby George, 7 catches, 91 yards, and 2 touchdown catches as the Miami Hurricanes continue to have one of the top records in the country. They're 10-1 overall, ranked number 8 in the country, 6-1 in ACC play. They should have no problems going into the ACC championship game, which will take place in a couple of weeks. Back to the SEC. Florida 6-5 after beating number 9 Ole Miss 24-17. Jackson Dart, he put up some great numbers for Ole Miss, but he had that critical interception toward the end there, which helped seal the upset win for the Florida Gators. Florida's been having an up and down year. Ole Miss has been one of the underrated, surprising stories in the SEC in college football this year, but Jackson Dart made the critical mistake, and it came out to bite him in the butt. Montrell Johnson, the star running back for Florida, 18 carries, 107 yards and a touchdown. He was the big difference maker for the Florida Gators offensively, as I mentioned. Florida now 6-5 on the year, 4-4 in SEC play. Ole Miss, they dropped their record to 8-3, 4-3 in SEC play. And sticking with the ACC, Georgia had a nice win, a dominant win over Massachusetts, 59-21. Carson Beck, a dominant performance, 20-31, 297 yards and 4 touchdowns. Their star running back, Nate Frazier, that is, 21 carries, 136 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. And Arian Smith, their star wide receiver, 3 catches, 110 yards in a score. So Georgia proven to trying to get back into that conversation of playing for the college football playoff. They're 92 overall, 5-0 at home. So Georgia, after struggling for the last few weeks on the road, it's nice to see them getting back to dominance playing at home. Sticking with the SEC one more time. Number 11, Tennessee, the Volunteers get a 56-0 shutout win over UTEP. For the Tennessee Volunteers, Dylan Sampson had 11 carries for 77 yards and a touchdown. Tennessee scored, 28 of their 56 points in the second quarter. They scored 28 points the rest of the way in that second half. Tennessee 9-2 overall, 7-0 at home. So Tennessee's trying to keep up, and they're trying to make a case for themselves to get into the college football playoff and perhaps play in the SEC title game. We'll see what happens with them down the road. Number 12, Boise State in West Coast football in the Mountain West. Ashton Genty's crew, the Boise State Broncos, they get it done, beating Wyoming 17-13. Speaking of Ashton Genty, he's the top Heisman candidate according to many for the Heisman Trophy. He had 19 carries, 169 yards in the touchdown. And their quarterback, Maddox Madsen, 14-26, 156 yards. Excuse me. He didn't have a great day. I'm talking about their quarterback, but Ashton Genty bailed him out with that 61-yard touchdown run late in that fourth quarter to pull it away for Boise State, as they still are in the mix of trying to get into the college football playoff. They'll participate in the Mountain West title game coming up in a couple of weeks. We'll see how they do there, and will their record be good enough to get into the college football playoff? Right now, they're 10-1 overall, 7-0 in Mountain West play. Number 13, Southern Methodist University, or as known as the kids would say, SMU. They take care of Virginia 33-7. Now going to Big 12 play, number 14, BYU. They get upset by number 21, Arizona State. The Sun Devils beat the BYU Cougars 28-23. For Arizona State, their star running back Cam Skattebo had 28 carries for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jordan Tyson, their star wide receiver, 9 catches for 125 yards. Arizona State did not score a point in the fourth quarter, but they survived with their defense, and they kept BYU out of the end zone. On their last drive, Arizona State pulls out the upset win. BYU's been struggling the last couple of weeks. They lose on back-to-back occasions on the road. Last week it was at Kansas. This week it was at Arizona State. Both teams now having 6-2 record. Both of them could play in the Big 12 title game. We'll have another team that has something to say about that in just a moment as Lakina rejoins us. And I was discussing the Arizona State upset win over BYU last Saturday. Points. I will get to Colorado in just a moment, but give us your thoughts about the Sun Devils upset win. They quietly made it back to the having a now 3-way tie atop the Big 12 conference. BYU, looks like they were the team to beat earlier on in the season, but they put up 2 back-to-back gaffers on the road here. Looks like BYU is very vulnerable here.
Yeah, I mean Arizona State, they looked really good. I mean they almost blew that game against BYU. Sort of like the same thing happened with the Minnesota Bears yesterday, but they were able to pull it out late. But yeah, I mean, give the Sun credit. I mean, they stayed with it. There was some weirdness that happened after the game, whether there was time left or not. But yeah, the good part about it is that they were able to hang on, and they don't have the tiebreaker right now. They're kind of in the driver's seat. They play Arizona on Saturday. Well, I think Friday to finish it up. So if they win, they're kind of right. They're right there to the tie game. If they win it, they might have a say on getting into the college football playoffs. So they looked really good these last couple weeks. They're kind of like I talked about this with our new buddy. I know you have a chance to talk together with Nick King, and he said that we've been talking about this guy for the last couple of weeks. The receiver for Mr. Jordan Tyson. He had 126 yards. He was a big part of that. He didn't score any touchdowns, but he was a part of advancing the chains down the field. It was really their running back, Cam Senebro. Had 147 yards and 3 TDs. He's one of the top rushers in the Big 12, and he was a big reason why BYU didn't have an answer for him. They did come back, but they were able to pull it out. So yeah, I think Arizona State could have perhaps have a shot, perhaps get into the playoffs should they beat Arizona, perhaps win the Big 12 title game. Now get to Kansas City, Colorado, Sid. I know you've been avoiding talking about that game. I know you have. So let's get right to it. I mean, I warned you about Kansas, and they're looking like a spoiler for them and for any team. They did to BYU. They derailed. Look what happened to BYU these last couple of weeks. Now they're going to say to Colorado, and they're now 5-6. They play K-State to finish up the season, and they need that win to get into a bowl game. And Dylan Neal, look, I don't know if he'll make the Heisman trip, but it's going to be interesting. 270 yards and 3 TDs. And Shadir Sanders, I know there was some stuff that happened. Did he touch a ref? Did he not? I know he wasn't. Should have people say, oh, you should have been tossed, but whatever. But 263 yards, 260 yards and 3 TDs there. They just couldn't get the running game going for Colorado. And give Lance Leopold and his Kansas guys credit that they could throw their hands up and say, forget it. Just play like up the rest of the season. They've come back. They're right there to think of it to get a bowl game, and they play spoiler for teams.
Yeah, for Colorado, you mentioned that I watched that whole game. They couldn't. It looks like they couldn't stop Devin Neal. He was the best player on both sides of the ball, and Colorado's defense, which has been much improved from this time last year, they couldn't stop the screen. They couldn't stop the run. And Shadur Sanders, even though he is a great athlete, Lakina, he reminds me what Justin Fields did here in Chicago at times last year, and what Caleb Williams did yesterday. They hold the ball for too damn long, and once that happens, nothing good happens, and that's what happened late in that fourth quarter there, where you thought that Colorado had a chance to really get back into the game and make things interesting. It didn't happen. I don't know if you caught Deion Sanders' speech to the team afterwards. I'll just paraphrase it here. He said that once we started winning, you guys started listening to the people on the hype train. You started believing in what they said. Now we got humble. What are we going to do about it from here? And I think they will beat Oklahoma State on Friday. We'll get into that more on our show on Wednesday. But can they finish the season strong at 93? Yes, they can. I believe they will. But as far as their slim chances at the college football playoff, I think it's over with. Can they get into the Big 12 title game? They're going to need a lot of help.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second, because the way the whole thing's set up, they are going to need some take care of business this week. They're going to need some help there. But a big win for Hugh Freeze over at Jordan-Hare Stadium. Auburn upset Texas A&M 4 overtime. Well, I don't want to say thriller, but I guess it was 43-41. It was kind of like after the second overtime, they go do the whole 2-point conversion thing. Of course, I forgot who the receiver was for A&M, but they dropped it. So that's how a nice win for Hugh Freeze, probably his best win since taking over there. And the Texas A&M head coach, he wasn't. Well, let's just say he was looking ahead to Texas coming up on Friday. And,
you think?
Whoops. And I'm thinking that they took that personally. So I'm thinking that Auburn probably kind of took that personally. So they kind of jumped on it early. That they did come back. Some of the Aggies did, but Mike Elko, not you, naughty boy. Naughty, naughty.
Speaking of a team that's doing things quietly, number 17, the Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney. Can you remember a season, Lakina, that he's been quote unquote this quiet in terms of him being seen in front of the media? I can't remember a time, at least a recent memory, but Clemson quietly getting it done in the ACC. They're 92 overall, 5-1 at home after blowing out the Citadel 51-14.
Yeah, Cole Cuba's like he's starting to get it going there. I think this is probably the quietest I've seen. Since I think he first got to Clemson, no one's really talking about him. So I think he prefers it that way. Now they have a game against South Carolina against Shane Beamer, and you gotta wonder, depending on how the seeding goes. I'm sure there's gonna be some shakeups with the seeding when the rankings are announced tomorrow. Could that game perhaps maybe be someone could get into the playoff with that? One of the winners could be in the driver's seat. We'll see. Iowa State, needed a comebacker, but they beat Utah. The Zoo beat Mississippi State. Illinois, again, they needed another win, another play to come out of their tuchuses because they should have lost this game against Rutgers. But again, they're 9-3, so I digress. Syracuse beat Connecticut 31-24, which was actually a pretty entertaining game. Boston College beat North Carolina.
Matt Brown's supposed to be returning next year.
Yeah, I saw that. So take that for as you will. TCU beat Arizona. Let's see. Going to the night games. Nebraska, they're going back bowling. They're back bowling for the first time. I think it's like over a decade. They beat Wisconsin 44-25. The Battle of the Bay Area. Cal held off Stanford. Texas Tech beat Oklahoma State. Let's see, the Big 12. Let's see here. Arkansas no trouble with La Tech. Oregon State beat Wazoo. Sorry, Anderson. Baylor beat Houston. And Duke beat Va Tech. Tech. See with a nice win over UCLA. I saw a little bit of this matchup. It was kind of like back and forth. We thought that UCLA had it, but to their credit, SC came back and won this game 19-13. And Fresno State beat Colorado State. So that's what we could see Boise State and the UNLV perhaps in the Mountain West title game in a couple of weeks.
Going back to the Illinois. Yeah, going back to the Illinois-Rutgers game, Lakina, we talked about Illinois being tough on the road this year. They lost a tough run at Penn State early in the year. They got dominated by Oregon on the road, but they did have a tough run early in the year at Nebraska. And I thought that experience came in with Luke Almighty. He didn't have the greatest of games, but he was key in throwing that big pass to Pat Bryant, who took it all the way for that game-winning touchdown. Illinois came big in that fourth quarter, scoring 23 points. That was a great play call on fourth down.
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they should have lost that game. Of course, like I said, it's probably.
Yeah, so as Lakina mentioned, Illinois, they're ranked number 25 right now in the country. They improved their record to 8-3 overall, 5-3 in Big Ten. If it wasn't for that loss against Minnesota at home earlier in the year, you could make the case for them participating in maybe an outside shot in the Big Ten title game, perhaps maybe sneaking into that college football playoff. But with 3 losses, I don't think it's going to be possible. I know they play on Saturday, this coming Saturday at Wrigley Field against Northwestern. We'll preview that game coming up on a Wednesday on Second City Sports. So Illinois could finish with a 93 record. I said earlier in the year, this team was better than the one that surprised everybody 2 years ago. Around this time, that team 2 years ago struggled down the stretch, but it looks like this Fighting Illini team is finding ways to win, and they're going to try to finish the year strong. As they'll play Northwestern here in Chicago at Wrigley Field on Saturday. You're listening to Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Sid the Kid here with you. Lakina McGee hopefully will join me coming up in a couple of minutes. Going into some sports media news right now as I try to find it find it here on my phone here. ESPN selects Richard Jefferson to call NBA Cup championship game. Of course, you know the ratings have been slipping for the NBA to start the year because certain stars like Joel Embiid, Giannis to a lesser extent have not play, along with Paul George in Philadelphia. And some of the games have not been interesting to start the year, but the NBA Cup, they struck gold last year with the LeBron James and the Lakers beating the Indiana Pacers for the Lakers to win the inaugural NBA Cup. If the Lakers or another team like Golden State can make it to the championship final this year, the NBA will be happy and they will strike gold again. But as far as that coverage is concerned, ESPN elected to go with Richard Jefferson to call the NBA Cup tournament games here coming up in a couple of weeks from Vegas. So ESPN, as they say goodbye to Hubie Brown, as we talked about on the show last week, they're welcoming Richard Jefferson to perhaps take his spot. He's done great work for ESPN over the last couple of years or so. For him to call one of them tournament games for ESPN, it's just a great job by him. So we'll see what happens with that. Going to some other news in the sports media world. Last Thursday, the NFL struck gold with the snow game between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Cleveland Browns. Of course, Cleveland came back to win that game, but if you saw those clips on social media, the whole Thursday Night Football crew with Carissa Thompson, Andrew Whitworth, Richard Sherman, and others, they did the snow angel on the field following the game. Of course, watching bad weather games for football, if you're at home, it's a beautiful thing to watch. But if you're there attending the games, I'm sure it's not the world's greatest experience, only because you got to drive there through bad weather to the games. You spend a whole lot of money, and the elements, you're right there in the elements, and it's just not a good look for your average fan. You're a young fan, you don't care, but if you're an old person like me, you don't want to sit there through bad weather, especially where we broadcasted from here in Chicago. You definitely do not want to do that. So, but fans like it, so we'll see what happens as we get into the latter stages of November, going into December, as far as the playoff races are concerned, and weather is starting to become an element here. Well, with these NFL games, if you're not inside, you have to play outside. The weather could become a factor in many of these games, so it's going to determine a fate for a lot of teams in the NFL. So we'll have to watch out for that. As far as the viewership for that last Thursday night game is concerned, 13.25 million viewers viewed that game on Amazon Prime between Pittsburgh and Cleveland. So the NFL is very happy. Of course, that's the highest rated game on Amazon Prime for this for so far this year. So Al Michaels and Kurt Hershey and the rest of that crew over there, they're doing a phenomenal job. And the NFL is very happy. So, and let's not forget too, the NFL will play on Christmas Day this year with a doubleheader on Christmas Day. We also talked about this on the show with them having streaming issues during that gaffe of a fight between Mike Tyson and Jake Paul. But hopefully all those issues will straighten out, because this is the first time Netflix is doing a live event for NFL. So whatever happens happened there with that Tyson fight, hopefully those issues will be straightened out and they'll have a better performance sometime on Netflix, as they'll make their debut on Christmas Day, showing 2 NFL games on Christmas Day. So we will stay tuned for that. Wrapping up today's show right here on Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Around this time every Monday, we like to end the Monday show on a good note, but this will take just a slight turn, as we'll pay tribute to Chuck Woolery, the former TV host and entertainer. He passed away yesterday at the age of 83. He was an American game show host, talk show host, actor, and musician. He had long-running 10 years hosting several game shows, including he was the original host of Wheel of Fortune from 1975 to 1981, and the original incarnation of The Love Connection from 1983 through 1994, Scrabble from the mid-'80s till 1990, and Greed, which aired on Fox from 1999 until 2000. He had a top 40 pop hit with the psychedelic pop duo The Avant-Garde and a number of country music releases. He was born in Kentucky in 1941, and he served in our armed forces of the United States Navy, to be exact, aboard the USS Enterprise in 1963. Woolery worked as a wine consultant company in Columbus, Ohio. As I mentioned, he worked in the music industry in the early 60s into the early 70s. And of course, he became a talk show, game show host rather, in the 70s, into the 80s, into the early 90s. So I was going to discuss this with Lakina, but I'll share. I'll share a personal memory here. Of course, I was born in the 80s, and of course, here in Chicago, the Love Connection was broadcasted on WBBM TV here in Chicago, the local CBS connection. Of course, if you stayed at your grandparents' house during the day, if you were sick or what have you, they usually had on the Prices Right. That was the case in my household with my late grandmother. It was the Prices Right, the soap operas, and of course, Love Connection aired in the afternoon. So, Love Connection was before all these day naps you see and hear right now. Chuck Woolley was a great host. He filmed that show for a live studio audience. It was engaging. The contestants on that show, he brought the personalities out of them. He had a great lighthearted personality, and that really got the audience to engage with him. And that's something that you don't see too much of these days because everything's reality TV and whatnot. So everything is so much tension and back and forth, but everything was lighthearted with him. Whatever project and whatever show that he that he hosted, he made it fun, he made it interesting, he had that charisma which everybody doesn't have. So he put everything into what he did, and he made American audiences respect him and laugh and bring joy to them. So like I said, Chuck Woolery had did some work also later in his life. 2012 through 2014, Save Us Chuck Woolery. It was a podcast / radio show. Blunt Force Truth, which he had co-hosted with Mark Young. Those 2014 until recently, up until his passing. Last year, he had the game show. It was a game show documentary, and he was a host of the 1980s quiz show, which he did earlier this year before his passing. So, Chuck Woolery, he passed away yesterday at the age of 83. He will be missed, and for us, from all of us here in Second City Sports and Sports Zone Chicago, peace and love to the Chuck Woolery family going through this passing at this challenging time, especially with the holidays coming up. And so it was tough to hear that news yesterday, and we just wanted to pay tribute to Chuck Woolery, the longtime television game show host who passed away at the age of 83. You can follow yours truly, Sidney Brown, on the Twitter and the IG at SidKid80. Once again, at SidKid80. That's SIDKID80. That's SIDKID80. Be sure to download that Sports Zone Chicago app wherever you get your apps. Be sure to follow Sports Zone Chicago on all social media platforms on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our podcast. We are located at War Media Podcast. That's WARR Media, PODCASTS. We are on all podcast platforms, including the iHeartRadio app. And while you're ready, please give War Media a follow at WARR Media on all social media platforms. And thank you very much in advance for your support. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time. One more again, as the kids would say. Be sure to catch Second City Sports live in living color every Monday, every Friday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Programming note, because of the Thanksgiving holiday, we will be with you for a special edition of Second City Sports this coming Wednesday in 2 days, starting at 12 noon right here on Sports Zone Chicago. Once again, we'll be back for a special edition of Second City Sports that's coming up in a couple of days this Wednesday from noon to 2 p.m. Central Standard Time right here on Sports Zone Chicago. We'll review the Bulls game they'll play tomorrow. We'll give you the Bears-Lions preview for the game on Thursday on national television. We'll give you another preview for this coming weekend in college football as they wrap up the regular season. And we'll have some fun along the way before we send you off on your way for this long extended Thanksgiving holiday for many of you. For Lakina and McGee, I am Sidney Brown. This has been Second City Sports on Sports Zone Chicago. Take care. We'll talk to you Wednesday at high noon. Holla!